Welcome to another episode of Six Figure Secrets for Fractional Experts. My name is Bradley Jacobs, your host, the founder and CEO of Mylance. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by Ash Seddeek. Ash is the founder of Mivante, and he's a fractional OCM, which is Organizational Change Management Advisor. He helps executives at Cisco, Uber, Google, and others sharpen presence, clarify messaging, and communication performance. Ash, welcome to the show.
Bradley, so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to dive right in because you have a quote on your LinkedIn that I find to be fascinating. As soon as I read it, I've heard the quote before, but it really lands with me. And so I'm just going to read the start of it. Maybe we'll get into more of it as we go. But the beginning of the quote is, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. What
Yeah.
makes that your favorite quote? Like, just go into it for me.
I love this quote because it always tells us that however far we go, we realize that if we just push a little bit harder, a little bit smarter, we actually can achieve a lot more. And I realized growing up and thinking about myself, my family, my sisters, my brother, my parents, I realized that sometimes the environment that we grow up in more or less creates these ceilings, and we don't even realize it. It's so funny when you look at siblings. A lot of the time they're just comparing each other to one another. I struggle with this myself, and I try to say to my siblings, let's broaden the circle because maybe there are even better examples. And I think there's also fear that if you achieve success, that maybe the people around you will see you differently. Maybe you lose some of the relationships because they actually love you up to this point. And if you go a little bit higher, maybe there's fear in us that maybe we would lose some of these friendships. And I think we need to grow through that discomfort because many of us are highly likely not reaching out far enough based on what we could accomplish. And that's really where this quote keeps reminding us that maybe it is not our greatness that is making us afraid. Maybe it is these other issues.
What I'm hearing you say is that the fear around powerful beyond measure is actually that I will lose relationships in my life by becoming powerful, and whatever that means to you. They might feel inadequate, or they might not respect, or they might be jealous, or they might,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And so they're not going to be a valuable relationship anymore.
Without a doubt, I think that's part of what is potentially shaping how we act on a daily basis. Even the words we choose are coming from a deep, deep, deep foundation system that basically says, stay within these boundaries. And it's an interesting, I think, thought for us to think about, basically asking ourselves, are we limiting ourselves based on some deep down belief that if I extend my boundaries this way or that way, I might lose something. Maybe there's a risk there. Or also, maybe we're also afraid of success. That's the other side of it, where people are afraid of, oh my God, I know myself so well and I know how to live with my limited achievements, but if I go beyond measure, what is going to happen? Am I actually going to be able to live day by day? That's the other fear.
These fears, right? These beliefs, they're not super conscious normally, right?
Exactly. That's the biggest problem. Yes.
And so, how does one figure out? I think I agree with you that every single one of us limits ourselves. How do I determine what those beliefs are that are those subconscious? Maybe when I was, being brought up as a child, or I'm just like not in touch with it for whatever reason. It's scary, it's uncomfortable. I don't know. How do I get in touch with what beliefs exist within me that are holding me back?
That's a great question because one of the things that I'm finding so valuable about coaching is that you want a coach to push back on Bradley. When Bradley says, I don't think I can do that, you need a coach who says, you know what, Bradley, what if you could? What would that look like? And that idea of pushing back is a fantastic exercise that I recommend that we all do. I recommend that people have what's called a meeting with self on a Friday afternoon. And part of that conversation is to basically look at what do you have coming up, and then ask the question about what you just said, the limits. Am I putting a limit here? When I ask a client for a $20,000 engagement fee, am I asking too much? Am I asking too little? And having some of those conversations maybe will help unlock some of those underlying beliefs. And I think it's that self-talk that's important sometimes.
Let's just say every single listener is like, all right, I'm going to do this like self conversation Friday afternoon.
Yes.
Like, am I sitting down with a journal and giving myself the prompt? Am I going for a walk and talking to myself out loud? Am I talking to ChatGPT? Like, what am I doing?
It could be all of the above. And what I've done recently, because I've actually seen this happen a lot in my coaching clients, and I ended up creating a planner. And in that planner, we actually ask the leader to think about themselves, their team, the organization. So when you said, to your point, and I love what you said, because it can happen in any one of those ways. You can definitely have a conversation with ChatGPT where you say, here's my situation. I'm trying to basically unlock some of my boundaries. Or you could use pencil and paper, which sometimes that form factor gets that flow of thoughts coming up. So that's another idea, is to sit down with a physical piece of paper or a planner like this one that gets you thinking not just about you, but also, are you pushing the boundaries on your team if you have a team? Are you pushing the boundaries on the organization if you have an organization? Because that underlying belief is affecting every concentric circle. It starts with the individual, and then of course if you have other entities that are built around you, highly likely are impacted. It's like we don't want to have more customers. Make sure you don't get us more customers. Like, why? Is it really about scaling, or is it because you're afraid of success?
If I think about two people, one that's constantly pushing the boundary and one that's not and playing it a bit safer, I think it's fair to say the one who's constantly pushing the boundary is going to end up further. Like 100%, right? If I'm reaching out to like every big influencer and every famous person and every PR outlet, and like just as examples, trying to get the most reach for my product or service, whatever it is, I'm going to get some yeses. And this person who's scared to do that, just as the example, they're obviously not going to get it unless it falls in their lap, which sometimes people get lucky. But
Great point, because the other piece is that I think most of us, a lot of our listeners would agree that we learn so much more from failing. Because succeeding, we sort of assume, of course, we're so smart, we have a lot of experience. Of course, we're going to succeed. But to your point, I think if you push yourself, and yes, maybe in the beginning I get some pushback or some rejection, that's when I actually get a whole lot more introspective, and I think about, maybe I could do it this way, maybe I could do it that way. Maybe I can go talk to Bradley and find out, how did he do it? And then all of a sudden, then the second round, I am highly likely going to score more points than I did in round one. And that's the other piece, is that we need to see ourselves as work in progress.
yeah.
We need to give ourselves permission to make the mistakes, because a lot of the time, again, we're thinking, oh, we should never make mistakes, or we should never fail. But I do believe that we need to see where we could potentially be in a discomfort zone because we don't know how to do it. And that's where, if we can achieve a little bit of failure, we can learn so much from it. And then we are much, much, much stronger.
Yeah. I mean, two quotes there, right? One is, we learn so much from failing, when I think most people, myself included, have this fear of failure. Like, what does it mean about me if I fail? There's like an ego conversation there that's scary, frankly. And flipping that around, because if we learn the most from failing, which agree, the natural next step would be, I'm going to fail as much as possible.
Yes, exactly.
Versus I'm scared to fail. It's like, I'm going to fail as much as possible so that I can learn the most and I can move the furthest.
Absolutely. And I love what you said, because we definitely need to deflect the association between failure and ourselves. Because highly likely there is a process that we're trying to understand how it works, a set of steps. And then we come back and we say, okay, if we sit down and we were consulting with a client that has gone through the same experience, we're going to try to see if we can unpack the steps and see where we might be able to optimize, maybe do things differently next time. But definitely, it has nothing to do with the horse and everything
Right.
to do with the race.
Right.
And that way, you re-energize your ability to go at it again and go at it again.
The other quote I wrote down as you were talking is giving ourselves permission to make mistakes. And it's really the same thing, right? It's saying like, because for me personally, I have that perfectionist in me. It's ingrained in me that I get self-worth and confidence from accomplishment, doing well. And it's completely counter to this whole point.
Without a doubt.
I know it holds me back, right? If I'm just being honest with myself, I know my desire to be perfect, desire to get it right, holds me back in probably every area of my life.
And again, maybe there's something underlying all of that where what if I actually do succeed? So you may be basically revving the engine with the intention that I'm trying to figure out the engine, and then I want to make sure when the engine goes out, it's going to drive really well. But maybe there is also fear of, again, as we said earlier, sometimes we are afraid of succeeding actually. And that's really where we may be spending some time overcycling in some area because we're avoiding the other one.
We talked about the fear of succeeding being about losing relationships. I got to imagine the primary relationship we're scared of losing is our parents.
I think in that case, for the parents, highly likely they are the only people in the universe who want to see you succeed beyond measure. So I would actually think more on the friends side, the siblings side, because again, unfortunately, for some reason, as we said very early on, people are in that circle of comparison that is so limited. So definitely one of the main ideas we have for our audience today is broaden that circle so that you have more basis points that you can compare yourself to.
Yeah.
And that gives us the freedom to say, oh my goodness, I have these role models that are outside my circle to remind me constantly to get out of that small, limiting view of the world that the world only consists of 7 people. I mean, that's ridiculous. But then again, that's human beings. We are very human in that fact. So we have to push the boundaries of how we think.
I'm really curious what you just said about parents because I'm not a parent. So I will preface that. Do not have children of my own, so I cannot fully relate to what the feelings are like as a parent. And parents are human and imperfect and have their own ego and insecurities and maybe resentments about their own lives or things they didn't accomplish. Do you not think some of that is subconsciously passed on to, let's say, a fear potentially, right? Just one scenario, a fear that your son or daughter ends up being more successful than you, and you might have resentment towards them, even though it's your child.
It's possible, but I'm a parent of 3 daughters, so I can see, of course, to your point, there are a lot of things we don't know until we try them. But I think the percentage is much higher on the side where parents are ecstatic to see their kids doing even better. That is, I think, what we can consider normal. There are cases, of course, where perhaps for one reason or another, we might see the other example you mentioned, which hopefully would be rare because typically a child is one of their offspring and they want to at least make sure that they are able to thrive on their own. Like the moment you got in a car and start driving, and your parent is thinking and looking at you driving away, oh my god, Bradley's in a car driving by himself, and then of course they pray for your safety, and it's like, oh, he's on his own now, he can be self-sufficient, self-sustaining, and again you pray for their safety and their success. And sometimes you have friends in your life who are like that as well. They want the best for you, and a lot of the time what's happening in their lives is also impacting their points of view, the economics and everything else. So it's very interesting how, when you think about something like COVID 19, how much of that was a big, huge disruptor that shifted a lot of mindsets and point of views. And I think if we think about our own lives, sometimes something happens and then it does shift our point of view.
We talked about what we are scared of in being powerful as losing relationships. Are there other things we're also scared of in being successful and powerful?
That's a great point. And it comes a lot in coaching when I'm coaching leaders. What we sometimes find is, Bradley has been working as a project manager for, 7 years, achieved a lot of success, achieved a lot of recognition. based on the fact that he's been an amazing project manager. And then one day you say to Bradley, hey, Bradley, we want you to stop working as a project manager. We actually want you to start becoming a people leader, and you have a lot of people working for you. And then all of a sudden, Bradley sees this idea of shifting from something that he's very good at, very successful, and has built a lot of recognition. Now you're asking him to pretty much give up a racehorse that's been winning races and then put him in an area that is totally new to him. So sometimes also we are, number one, we hate losing a winning stock and buying a stock that we do not know so much about. So a lot of these transitions is another source of fear for a lot of people because we don't know what's on the other side. So it's a bit similar to the idea of afraid of failing, but here it's almost like there's a double-edged sword. I have to give up a winning stock and go buy one that I'm not really sure how it's going to perform.
Okay, so number one is potential of losing relationships. Two is the uncertainty and fear of the unknown. Are there more?
Here you're also giving up assets that you built over time. Now you're walking away from it and you're going to have to start afresh with a whole other body of knowledge. Maybe it's the body of knowledge of leading others. That's a whole new field. There is that fear of, am I going to be able to rebuild my system of success one more time?
And I really want to double click on that for our customer, right? Our listener who are fractional executives, independent consultants who were most likely, almost all of them, in corporate for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Then they go out on their own. And even if they're performing a similar function, which most of them are, the way in which they're doing it is completely foreign, completely unknown, completely new. So it's like, can I replicate and even surpass the success, even just financially, performance wise, all of that, that I was if I were working at Uber or Google or whoever, making a few hundred K a year, doing great? Can I go out on my own and create the same success that I was in corporate? I think that's really what you're hitting on. Like, can I do that? And that's scary.
Yeah, very scary because, of course, when we're working inside a corporation, we have a whole lot of a support system around us. When we go out on our own, then all of a sudden we're it, right? That single individual is the marketing department, the finance department, the professional services department, the PR department. I mean, you name it, it's just one person. I ended up creating a structure based on my experience working at Deloitte as a management consultant and reading a lot of books by Tom Peters. And the structure may be helpful for some people listening to us, where you end up essentially seeing yourself as a professional services firm of one, which most of our fractional audience members are. They are basically having a professional services organization of one. So we basically then end up saying, okay, we need to have what I call the own it, win it, crush it model, where we see ourselves as owning the fact that, okay, now I'm in business for myself. I am going to develop a responsible mindset. I am the only machine that motivates itself on a daily basis, because if I don't open shop, I mean, how are my clients going to find me? So that the first one is really coming up with a set of mindsets that help drive the business. Definitely seeing a responsible mindset is one, an abundance mindset is another part of that, owning it. And then the third mindset is a management consultant mindset, understanding what that means and learning a lot from the management consulting industry. Because a lot of people who end up doing fractional consulting, maybe they haven't worked in a management consulting environment before. So definitely belonging to management consulting associations is one, but those mindsets are helpful because then it gives them a lot of a psychological boost that they need on a daily basis, because you don't have others from the company who are scheduling calls with you. You're the one who has to initiate action most of the time.
Yeah.
And then the winning it part is building a body of knowledge where you see a lot of your expertise as a way of building some kind of a framework or a methodology that people see have something unique that you can bring to the table. So that's what I noticed when I was at Deloitte. I saw that a big part of how they made the money was creating these frameworks, creating a body of knowledge that they can. And now, of course, with Claude or ChatGPT, you're able to develop a branding as well around the framework that you use to conduct, let's say, marketing as a fractional service or CFO or CIO. And then eventually crushing it is when you do such a great job with each client. Of course, you end up triggering this referenceability factor where each client would refer you word of mouth, and other engines that you can automate that can then help you bring a lot more customers to you. Because I know how it is when you're dealing with one engagement. If you're not marketing for the next one, you finish one and then you have a dry spell, and again you're back at it again. So hopefully people can develop some type of a system where they can see an opportunity for them to chunk up some time to keep that flow of clients coming in.
Yeah, and I'm gonna challenge your hopefully and say like it's mandatory. Like I just actually recorded a
No.
podcast a few weeks ago about the people that I don't have time for business development, and I hear that just so often with this customer, and it's a non-starter for your business.
That's basically the oxygen for the business. Yeah.
And just to double click on it for a second, it is the thing that most of our customers are not practiced at. They're not B2B sales folks. They're not head of sales. They don't really know what sales and marketing really looks like and means. And they're not great at it. And so they don't like it. And so it's the easy cop out of I'm really good at serving my clients. I'm really good at doing the things I love to do and know how to do. And so they say, I don't have time. And the real answer is you're not making time because you're avoiding what is the oxygen for your business. And it's just a non starter.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. A lot of the time we hear people saying, oh, I hate sales. Take the label away from the conversation. Just basically call it a conversation. I'm going to be talking with Brad. We're going to be exchanging some ideas, and maybe there is something that we can work on together. So let's just throw the word marketing, sales out of the window and focus it more on, you know what, I'm just going to have a conversation with Bradley. And if the stars align, if there's something that we can work on together, great. You know what? I'll send them the statement of work. And if they can get it approved, fantastic. So then mentally, I'm not really thinking about it as sales, but it's more of a conversation. And that also makes it a whole lot easier for us to get into those conversations, because what's so interesting, especially for fractional consultants, a lot of the time this is from a business to business transaction. It's not a consumer transaction, which means highly likely companies have dollars for a lot of these services, whether it's a CIO service, CFO service, and so forth, that we need to actually talk to ourselves more about the fact that these companies have so much money that they actually want to spend, because otherwise, again, just like in our personal lives, we have to give it to the IRS. Instead, our government wants us to use these dollars to expand the economy by having more velocity of every
Mm-hmm.
dollar. So you're actually doing your client companies a service by giving them an opportunity to spend money. It's really more about, to your point, Bradley, just talking through the conversations that are happening on the inside.
Yeah. It's an interpretation.
Yeah,
That's what
exactly.
you're
That's
doing, right? You are reframing the same thing, but you are coming with a completely different interpretation that feels empowering and aligned to you,
yeah,
right? Even a slightly different interpretation that I give is, you gave the companies are looking to spend money, which they are. I'm going to say companies are have problems that they're looking for you to solve.
exactly.
Sales
On top
is
of
you,
that,
yeah, you searching for the right problem to solve.
yeah,
That's all you're doing. Like, do you have the problem I can solve for you? Okay, great. It's a perfect match.
exactly to that point where if you do see yourself as speaking to serve, if I'm speaking to serve, who's selling? Nobody's
Right.
selling.
Nobody.
Nobody's selling. So I can see them, they're having a hard time figuring out what is the best architecture for AI in their finance department. Let's just have a conversation.
Yeah.
And if it looks like it's a piece of work that we need to work on together, again, this whole other stuff about invoices, SW is like just noise. It's
Yeah.
on the background. But to your point, I love what you said, because it gets us focused on the fact that there is something they are struggling with. And maybe you are the best gift for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to
Totally.
help them figure it out. And then you come in and you say, I'm going to partner up with you in getting it done. Because as a fractional professional, you're very much a management consultant that is partnering with them, and you're having this strategic relationship with them. And hopefully you get to the point where you become a trusted advisor.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the conversation about money is completely irrelevant because they take care of that on the background. Especially if you get on a retainer, then we don't talk about it as much anymore. It gets renewed. It's more of an email renewal. and life is good.
It feels like it gives a permission of, instead of, okay, I'm going to spend 30 minutes today doing business development and sales, I'm going to spend 30 minutes today looking for a problem to solve for someone
Yeah,
else. Like, what an invitation to me versus like, ugh, begrudgingly, I have to do this thing that feels gross.
absolutely. And I think if you see it as you said, you're helping them solve a problem, then
Yeah.
it's all about alignment. If what you've got, the experience you have is aligned, awesome.
Yeah. All right. I want to come back to your quote. The quote we ended with, it is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. I think this is so powerful.
Yeah.
I'll just turn it to you. Like, what part of this part of the quote, what stands out to you?
I love the piece where somebody sees Bradley on LinkedIn and they send him a message. Bradley, I love your journey. I'd love to learn more. The more we push the boundaries and achieve more, the more we will be sought after, in the light of we become actually mentors to others. We can help others. We can help others expand their wings. So I think being in that place where you are the person that's helping another person expand their wings and helping them see that they have a much bigger potential. My goodness. I mean, that would be the next stage, to your point. But once we see ourselves as pushing the boundaries and achieving a lot more, we basically quiet down the voices that are telling us, who do you think you are, picking up the phone and calling Bank of America. When we quiet down those voices and we definitely push the boundaries and achieve success, and then all of a sudden we have the ability to then inspire others. It's unbelievable. And I think inspiring others happens even without us knowing, because people see the journey you've been on and say, oh my goodness, if Bradley has been able to do that, that's very inspiring. Let me ask him a few questions about how did he do those things? And that's very inspiring. I think becoming inspiring is a whole other goal that we need to be. And I think it comes from a kindness mindset where you feel so much gratitude that you feel that part of expressing that gratitude is by giving.
So this hits perfectly on the quote of, your playing small does not serve the world, because
Yeah.
even if I do accomplish a lot, but I choose not to share it, then it doesn't do what you're talking about. It doesn't inspire anybody because their story's not out there.
Being small creates that idea that you're not sharing.
Right. Right.
You're like hiding.
Right. So there's an element of, I get to get out of my own way so that I can share my story. And what I mean by that, and for anyone listening, I know I'm sure you get it, but for anyone listening who doesn't follow that, it is the insecurity that I might have, or the self promotion conversation of, I don't want to be, promoting what I've done on LinkedIn or wherever. I get to let that go and put it to the side and share my story authentically, genuinely anyway,
Yeah,
because it might inspire one, two, three, five, 10 people. And I get to get over my stuff so that I can create that opportunity.
absolutely. And there are a lot of people listening to us who set up shop as a fractional CEO, a fractional CMO, and so on, who think that they should never make mistakes in front of the clients. They should be 100% buttoned up. And I actually argue that we should think unconventionally. Allow yourself to actually be more authentic and say something like, there are three areas of analysis here. We finished two areas. There's one area that we're still stuck on. Just show a little bit of vulnerability with the client so they can see that you are actually just like them.
Hmm.
You're not perfect. So if they are not perfect, they will actually open up and share with you that there is an imperfection in their process that they would love for you to help them with. So I would basically say find an elegant way. Of course, we don't want to look like completely, messed up and we don't know what we're doing, but showing a little bit of a difficulty that we've been in or a challenge that we're facing and speaking about it, giving it voice, the client then sees, oh my God, Bradley is just like me. I mean, he's struggling with the same stuff I'm struggling with. You know what? let me schedule lunch with Bradley because I want to talk to him about XYZ project. I am incredibly surprised a lot of the time by what clients come to talk to me about, completely because of the fact that you're really coming across a bit more human, a bit more like them, and not an imperfectionist who would only send them the PowerPoint if it's 100% perfect.
Yeah.
Let them know that you're willing to embrace progress and not so much perfection, because that's also is in the best interest of the business.
What I'm hearing you say is you're inviting them into the vulnerability with you by leading with it yourself.
Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because fact of the matter is, we've been in these corporate settings. We understand nobody is perfect. So if you soften your approach so they feel like you're comfortable with the fact that you could sometimes make mistakes or don't have everything buttoned up 100%, that tells them that you are just one of them. Yes, they expect you to be at a higher level of service because you're a management consultant and you're doing fractional consulting. Absolutely, yes. But also see a way where you can soften the vibe and let them know that yes, sometimes we make some mistakes, but you know what, rest assured that as soon as we identify an issue, we address it, we jump on it, we take care of it.
Yeah. The next part of this quote is I'm like using this as a guide for our
I love
conversation.
it. I love it. Yeah.
I love the quote so much. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
Without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, even if we think about our small town or our small family, if you have a nephew or a cousin looking at you and seeing you struggle and then seeing you come through the waves, I mean, that is so inspiring. And again, we don't, sometimes we won't even know about it. And that's okay. And that's okay. So to your point, then you need to give permission to Bradley. And that's all we have to think about is we think about ourselves, we give ourselves permission to push the boundaries. Maybe there is a bigger level of success that I can do, because maybe in so doing, someone else is going to see that and
Yeah.
be inspired by it.
I think it's so powerful to lead with vulnerability, to show up big, get out of your own way, and you don't at all realize the ripple effect that you're creating.
And that's the magical part. That's the magical part for sure.
I love this podcast to be as practical and actionable as possible for everyone listening. So we've talked about honestly some of my favorite concepts here that I continue to work on every day. I'm not going to pretend like I have this all nailed down, right?
Sure.
I certainly don't. What are some steps, like actionable steps that our listeners can take as they're maybe resonating with this conversation? Maybe they identify with playing small, fear driven conversation, don't do the things they need to be doing or know they need to be doing. What should they do?
Definitely, I'd recommend. I love the idea of a reset. And the idea of a reset, especially for someone who's running their own consulting business, is give yourself permission to get together with yourself this Friday and then basically say, if I were to kick it up a notch across all the dials, what would kick it up a notch look like? By looking at how we are building our brand, how we're branding ourselves, the framework that we're using, can we actually take it to the next level? If you look at your customer conversations, are you investing time talking to your customer? Are you investing time talking to your customer enough? Are you scheduling time with your customer where you get together with your client and say, I'd love to do a check-in. What's working, what's not working, what could be better? I mean, sometimes it's the most basic things,
Hmm.
but it will take their practice from one level to another. Highly likely on Friday, if they come up with 10 ideas and pursue them and do this every single week, we can, of course, imagine the compounding effect
Yeah.
of that meeting with self and the opportunity to say, if I were to kick it up a notch next week, what would that look like? If you're able to proactively reach out to a client and say, I sent this report, I haven't heard back. I realize it may be a little bit difficult for some people to digest some of the information. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to set up a call where I walk you through it, and here's how I'm going to walk you through it. And then you bring a deck that explains ideas so clearly that they think you have basically opened up their eyes and helped them see the information in a whole lot different way than they would have on their own. So
Yeah.
there's definitely always an opportunity for us to say, if I kick it up a notch, what would I do? And I love being a management consultant or fractional consultant, because you are in this position where the more you do so well with your clients, the highly the likelihood that they will do a bit more business with you or become a reference. And this idea of referenceability is the best lesson I got out of Deloitte. This idea of making sure that every piece of work is an ad in and of itself. It's going to do marketing for you. So don't worry about the money they're paying you for it. Make sure it's going to be incredibly good that whoever touches it will ask the question, who did this? And then they say, Bradley. Oh, do you have the contact information? So that piece of work is an opportunity for you to create a flying wheel effect of the quality of the work that you do. And that's what, for anybody in that business, management consulting, I mean, you want every piece to be in and of itself an opportunity to advertise your work by virtue of the quality of the work that you're doing. Every piece of work, especially if I am serving Cisco or Google or Uber, I have to do so well, because who knows, maybe another senior director sees it or another VP sees it and says, can you come work with us? Because they are such big companies. Cisco is more than 70,000. So can you imagine how many managers are there? How many directors, how many senior directors, how many VPs? So that's why if you think about the multiplied effect of your work, and then make sure that you embed the quality that you want to speak for itself. And that's huge.
We're going to wrap up here in a minute or two, but is there any piece of wisdom or advice or just a thought you want to leave our audience with today?
If anybody listening to us does not have a group of people that they consider their master class of experts that they work with, highly likely I recommend that they get together with a few others from different disciplines and maybe leverage that as a way to help them build momentum, because it gets lonely when you are working by yourself. Highly recommend that they try to find a set of professionals that they can get together on a regular basis.
I love that. So important.
Yeah.
If our audience, anyone in the audience wants to find you, we can put the links in the show notes, but where is the best place to find you?
The best place is LinkedIn, of course. And then one of the websites is communicatewithclarity.co. That's where people will find out about the different programs. And of course, one of the opportunities available is for people to leverage a complimentary one-on-one coaching call with me if they'd like to. Happy to do that, because we're kindred spirits. If we're working and consulting, we all are in the same boat. So happy to do that as well.
Amazing. I asked about actionable steps people can take, and one of those to me is working with a coach. I mean, I work with a coach. I think everyone really needs to see my blind spots, help me prioritize, making sure I'm working on the right things, limiting beliefs, all of it. It's like, I think it's the most important thing. Every single professional has a coach. Why shouldn't I?
Exactly. As superstars.
Yeah. Every single professional athlete. So Ash, thank you so much for being on the show. I loved this conversation and just a huge value add. So thank you so much.
Truly enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Bradley. Really appreciate it.